let's talk about why we're putting on this podcast.
Yeah. So I'm Frank.
Anthony.
We're your co-hosts for the Mat Return podcast from White Mountain BJJ in Ashland, New Hampshire. This is our attempt at kind of engaging our community and staying in touch with everybody, giving some tips on training, what we're up to, what we're working on, goals that we have. We'll be interviewing some of our members. Hopefully we'll be interviewing some other folks, especially Jiu-Jitsu practitioners in the New England area, and answering questions from all of you. So,
yeah, I think, we had talked about this as a way to engage the community more because when I started training, I could only attend the morning class, the 6 a.m. class, and you don't meet half the people except for the annual cookout. And then you realize that you train with people that you didn't even know came here, right? And a thing for me has been consistency. And so we call it the mat return because it has a couple of different meanings.
For sure.
Which, in the most literal sense, it means you're putting somebody back on the mat. But I think a lot of
getting
times,
yourself to the mat.
Right, with the way that we live our lives, I think consistency is you can drill, you can learn moves, you can roll, but what makes that a superpower is consistency.
For sure. Yeah, consistency, repeatability, continuing to show up is probably the key to making jiu-jitsu work for you, regardless of rank, regardless of age, experience. Putting the time in is really key, and we found that that's been the big struggle for a lot of people, is finding the time to do it. We've started a early morning class, as Anthony mentioned, for folks that were finding it challenging to make it to the regular evening classes. We found that really grew quite a bit, so much that we actually got a nickname for the class for the Silverbacks, because it tended to be a lot of older grapplers, more seasoned grapplers, seasoned in life, that wanted to continue training jiu-jitsu, but either couldn't find the time or found that the pace of some of the other classes was a little bit too much. Injuries were starting to crop up. So our classes focus more on basics, technique, drilling, and then sparring is really optional at the end of it if we want to. So I think it's been growing ever since we started it about a year and a half ago. So
but
really great to see.
Really valuable from the perspective of when we first started. I remember you told me, get a white gi because you can go anywhere with it. Yeah. And I thought to myself as a beginner, which I'm still a beginner now, but a real beginner, why would I need more than one gi? I'm only going to train here, right? And it's the Silverbacks class has prepared me to attend seminars not here.
Yeah.
And that's exciting. That's because it's like from class to class, I think I have not seen a difference from class to class, but then I look back 3 months and it's a different person.
For sure. Yeah.
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 And I think, obviously we want to know what the community wants to hear about, who they want interviews with, but I think that there's a lot of stories about jiu-jitsu that are tangential to the mat. I mean, the skill set is great. We're going to, for instance, I have 3 kids. They all train here now. And as a result, I help out with the kids class. And we actually put on a second kids class as a result of the fact that on Thursday afternoons, this wall is filled from side to side with kids. And there's I think a waiting list now of kids. But you're teaching the kids and you're also teaching the parents, because the parents don't necessarily understand, well, my kid was on the top, why were they not winning, right? Or something like that. And so I just find that makes it interesting to have to explain it from first principles, right? So how about you? I mean, I know I was very excited to share the secret of your promotion to black belt.
Yeah,
I held that secret for a while. I was like, don't be the guy who screws,
Yeah, I
who
think
screws it up.
everybody did.
But you know what? How has instructing over the years made you a better practitioner?
Well, I think the way I looked at it was every promotion that I got, I was kind of starting over again, because the toughest belt, I think, is white belt, in my opinion, because that's when you really have to start and you know nothing and you're really taking a big leap. And I think, just to back up a little bit on what you were saying, is when I didn't start jiu-jitsu till I was 44. I started with my kids, got them into it, was coming to classes every week with them, got introduced to it, and started training at 44 years old. So the challenge of actually walking through the door the first time, or the 50th time, is real, and being able to kind of, I used to call it a gut check. You know, when I would pull into the parking lot, there was that split second where it's like, do I go in or do I pull out and go home? Because no one's going to know either way, so except me. So pushing yourself to do that, and I think for me anyway, and from talking to a lot of other folks at the early white belt level, that is a very real thing. And I think part of that is you really have to let part of your ego go when you walk through the door and you're practicing jiu-jitsu. You really have to realize that, you know, if you were a great athlete in high school, if you're a weightlifter and super strong, and you know you're used to being kind of bigger, and that doesn't matter when you get on the mats.
Yeah.
People who are more experienced than you, know more than you, are you know, better versed in jiu-jitsu than you, are going to be better at this than you are, and
Yeah.
you have to really subjugate your ego to learn from them. But that's really what I think is one of the most valuable things about jiu-jitsu for me, has been learning that and then relearning that every time I got promoted. Every stripe I got, every belt I got, in my mind, made me start over again, because now at that point more was expected of me in order to be able to perform at that level. And getting my black belt was no different. It was more of an expectation that I was going to be looked at more as an instructor than a student. Fortunately here, Craig Willie, our head instructor, has given a lot of us the opportunity, like yourself, to be able to teach. And that sort of eases you into that role later on. But it's still very much, you're wiping the slate clean with every promotion that you get, and you're starting all over again, and you learn it from a new perspective. Similar to when we were talking about, both Anthony and I have gone to jiu-jitsu camps here in Maine, and starting out as a beginner and going to camp, it's like everybody's talking in a foreign language. Then when you come back the next year and you've got another year's experience and you go back to camp, you're like, oh, I see what that all is now. You know, it's like you're becoming fluent in a new language, and it really is pretty amazing to see your progression over that period of time. And it's like that with, I think it's like that with jiu-jitsu from year to year. Things that you are going to have a lot of trouble with in the beginning are going to become things that are probably mainstays in your jiu-jitsu practice later on. Partly because when you identify those problems, that's what you work on.
Yeah.
And that then becomes a strength. Jiu-jitsu is great at exposing weaknesses and even strengths that are weaknesses if you overemphasize those strengths. So it's really great to kind of bring some balance, for me, bring some balance into my life. You know, I've done martial arts for a while, and there's hard martial arts and soft martial arts. This is a nice balance between the two, where you're balancing all of that out and trying to become a better rounded person. And like you said, there's a lot of tangential benefit outside the dojo into life itself.
Yeah.
Putting yourself in a stressful situation frequently and voluntarily will make you better able to handle stressful situations when you're put into them involuntarily.
Yeah.
So
It's true. And it really does creep up on you where you're like, wait a minute, I'm not. I distinctly recall the hardest class for me was not the first class, it was the second class. Because I knew what I was getting into, right,
Yep.
coming back. And in preparation for this podcast, I was thinking about the things that make it harder to not be consistent. So for instance, in Silverbacks, because it's at 6 a.m. or very early in the morning, and we have inclement weather here all the time, you do a roll call. And that roll call is like a sneaky accountability weight, because once you say you're going, you need to be there, because there could only be 2 or 3 other people there.
Right. Yep.
And they're depending on you. I mean, there could be 8, but chances are, if you say yes, then the class is being held literally for you.
right.
And that was a huge accountability factor of like, well, I just said yes to roll call.
Yep.
I'm going.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's similar to like if you have a training partner at your gym, you got someone that's counting on you to be there. And we rely on our training partners a lot here for safety and to challenge us. And like you said, to be there when they say they're going to be there. So everybody benefits from it. I can say honestly, building on that, some of the best training days I've had are days that the last thing I wanted to do was come to jiu-jitsu. So I've never left here feeling like I shouldn't have come.
Yeah.
It's always been, and even if I wasn't moving well, if I got tapped 8 million times in rolls, if I got hurt, whatever it was, I always left with a feeling of accomplishment that I had done something hard that day and come out the other side of it a little bit better than when I went in. So yeah, the accountability is a very real part of it. It's and I think that's important because we often have things in our lives, work, family, other obligations that we have to show up for, that we're obligated to show up for. But I find that a lot of those things, not that those things aren't important because they are hugely important, but you don't always get that feedback at the end of at the end of your work day, let's say, that you leave work and you're like, man, I'm glad I came to work all day today. It's not always that way. Some days it is, but it's a lot of times that that gratification is very much delayed. It is in jiu-jitsu as well. There's a lot of hardship leading up to successes, but that daily reminder that you just got a little bit better, is, I think, pretty consistent after most classes.
So I have a question for you on that. My wife she got bit by the jiu-jitsu as well. Well, my kids did. I knew better than to force her, but my kids, they're like, you need to go, Mom, you need to go. And she is frustrated because she's like, I don't get it. And I'm like, it takes time. If anyone could say it takes time, it takes time.
Yeah, for sure.
What advice do you have to somebody who doesn't see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
you won't see it. Oftentimes you won't. That's probably the simple answer and not the answer that anybody wants to hear. But in my experience, I've never felt like when I was a white belt, it's like I'm a blue belt now. Even though I don't have my blue belt, I feel like a blue belt. I'm performing like a blue belt. You're just using promotions as a solid kind of marker of progress, right? It's why we have instructors. It's why we have more seasoned people not only teaching us but evaluating us all the time, right? The progress that's going to happen in jiu-jitsu, at least from what I've observed and from talking to other instructors, is that it's, as you said, consistency, showing up, showing progress over time, which oftentimes isn't really measurable by the person progressing. So what you said before about, the person you were at the beginning versus what you were 3 months later, that's probably the best advice I can give somebody. Is the best advice I got when I first started was from Brandon. Not that I didn't get good advice from every black belt I trained with, but with Brandon, he said, you're going to suck the first 6 months you're here. Give it 6 months, and guaranteed if you put the time in, you're going to be better at 6 months than you were the day you walked in. And he was right. I still wasn't any good at 6 months, but I was a lot less worse than I was day one.
Less bad.
So it's you have to give yourself time, and I think Jiu-Jitsu's taught me a lot of patience, not only applicable outside of here, but it's taught me a lot of patience with myself. To really not demand that I perform at a high level, excuse me, right away, but that I prepare myself to take another step. So if anything, I would tell her, you're learning.
Yeah.
Your frustration means that you're probably more committed to this than you know you are. And that means you're gonna learn. You just need to give yourself time to process it and have it come out. And the other thing too is, like in school, we don't grade our own tests. There's a reason for that, right? We're not really good assessors of our own knowledge. That's what our instructors are for. So you'll probably never feel ready for your promotion. And I've talked to a lot of people who've said this. I've said it myself. I've never felt like I was the belt that I got to. But someone said to me after that, well, if you don't feel like you're a blue belt, if you don't feel like you're a purple belt, a brown belt, well, now you have to earn it.
Yeah.
So you put more time in, and you learn what you don't know. Right. And then you keep pushing on that. And I think that's one of the keys to progression in Jiu-Jitsu, is that it makes you take an honest self-assessment and know where your weaknesses are so you can work on them.
So with that, the mat return, what we're working on here is, the reason, and again, when I first started here, I thought it was just going to be something I did to support my kids. And why would I need more than one gi, right? And now I have a closet full of, right? It's a little out of control, but the more I learn as a blue belt, the more I see the role of the academy and the role of the instructors there as to facilitate that consistency. And so how are we setting up the mat return to do that virtually? Because we have people who have trained here. This place has been here forever, right? And how are we using this as a tool to keep people engaged or re-engage people? Yeah.
Well, I think you said it, engagement's key. Some people can't make it back to classes because of schedule conflicts. This could be a resource for them to keep them sort of up to date, so that when the opportunity does come, that they can come to class, they're somewhat better prepared to do so. Also, like most of us who love the sport, our YouTube feed is filled with Jiu-Jitsu instructionals and interviews and things like that. So we're seeking out alternative ways of staying involved with the sport other than just coming to class or other than just sparring with somebody. This could be another way of engaging people in that way. I'd love to see this bring people in to the sport who've never done it. And especially folks who are, in their 30s, 40s and older, that think it's not for them. We have a lot of people on the mats now in our classes who are living proof that that's not true, that you can start this older and still do well and still progress. So I think that those things would be where I see this going. The other part of this too, I think, and we didn't have this, I was training Jiu-Jitsu when COVID hit, but we stayed engaged with each other when we couldn't train through a members-only Facebook page, and people would post what they were doing as far as like alternative training methods, filming like strength and conditioning, filming drilling, things to give. Number one, we stayed connected. Number two, it was like, oh, I could do that. I have that equipment at home. So you could stay in, so that when we reopened, yes, we were rusty in a sense that we hadn't trained in a while, but we weren't so rusty that we were completely disconnected from it. This is, the school's more than just a school, it's a community. You look forward to coming here and seeing the people that you see in class, and maybe this is the, I know for me with work and my family schedule, this is a lot of my social life is coming here and talking to people and engaging with them on the mat, sitting against the wall and talking about life afterwards. Like that's part of, I look forward to this. Without this, I don't have a huge social packed calendar, and I think that the mat return can be a way to help connect people in that way as well.
Yeah, so the mat return came out from two kind of parallel needs, right? The first one was that sense of community. The second one was, we live in New Hampshire. There's always some kind of weather cancellation here, snowstorm, something or other like that. So we needed a modern technology solution to keep everybody up to date about, hey, here's a weather cancellation. You get a text and an email for that. And it's also posted on a website because not everybody is on social media nowadays. And so there's the practical aspect, but then there's also, hey, since we built this thing for the practical aspect, let's also roll the community engagement into it, because there are a lot of stories here. I'm shocked. I'm actually, it's like, we've done CrossFit as a family, we've done, all kinds of other activities. I had not expected the community from Jiu-Jitsu to be the way it is in a positive. It's just, it's shocking. It's really, when we were in Oregon, we were friends with the wrestling community there, and it was a similar sort of thing. It was, I don't know if it's a grappling thing or, but it's refreshing in a very unexpected way. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, I think similar to CrossFit, you go through hard things with people, and it tends to bring you closer together in a similar way, because you know how hard it is to get your blue belt. You know how hard it is to stay consistent and train for years. So, there's that familiarity with, you know what's up. Not to draw a direct correlation, but we have a lot of guys who train with us who were prior service in the military, and I've talked to some of them, and they feel that same sort of camaraderie that they had in the military after going through basic and AIT with certain, they have that here in Jiu-Jitsu, because it's not easy, and you're going to challenge yourself, and you have to make the decision to prevail really against those negative thoughts that would keep you, like me, in your car and pulling out of the parking lot right before class starts. So you have to respect that, and somebody else who puts that time in to get their blue belt, to get their purple belt. That's and there is a real there's a hierarchy in Jiu-Jitsu, of course, with experience, but there's also a real respect for everybody here and what they bring to the school. Not just, you're a white belt, you're a blue belt, we can't learn from you. It's like, no, we can learn from anybody. We have D1 wrestlers in here who were white belts at one point. I'm not going to teach them takedowns. So it's, you can learn from anyone. You can learn from anyone's experience. And I think that yes, it's a hierarchy and there's a meritocracy, but there's also a real mutual respect of everybody who comes on the mats and acts accordingly. Who does, respects the school and the rules, and it's great. It's a really I think it's a really special place that I'm very happy and proud to be part of. So.
Yeah, I agree. You have to really experience it to understand it. It would be very difficult to explain it.
Yeah,
you really have to live it.
Yeah, I love seeing like what you and Jamie are doing with the kids' classes. expanding that, because teaching kids at a young age those values and that kind of appreciation for each other goes a long way.
Yeah.
My kids trained jiu-jitsu when they were younger. They don't anymore. They're teenagers now. But I can see the lessons stuck with them now that they're into like high school sports and college sports. That desire to accomplish, like win, is still there, but they can also appreciate the effort that an opponent puts in. Even if that opponent beats them, they can say that was a good, so it's really that kind of strength, it doesn't happen accidentally.
Yeah.
That kind of like subjugation of their ego and strength of self doesn't happen by accident.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's what my wife sees in my children and even in me, and that's what she wants. But she's impatient.
Yeah,
to get it.
Yeah,
right?
we all are.
Yeah.
I mean, we all are to an extent, right? I mean, I can remember. I was going to say you could tell her this, but now I guess we're going to tell everybody this. But I can remember being a white belt, a very early white belt, and getting absolutely manhandled coming in here. And I remember the day it happened. I remember how I felt. I remember what I was wearing. I remember what the guy who manhandled me was wearing. And I remember saying, I couldn't live with myself knowing that I let that happen and I didn't try to not let it happen again. And that was a part of, two things. One was my ego, right? But part of it also was, in order to be able to come back, I had to let that go, because guess what? It happened again. And it happened a lot until it didn't happen. Right? So it's, and there's still, not to say it can't happen now, right? But it's just that part of it was motivating, and also it was part of me letting go of that part that I thought was so important, was winning. But what was really important was learning, right? And Hickson Gracie is famous for saying this: you either win or you learn, which I think is a lot more, it's a lot more deep than maybe people think it is. When you experience it, you know that there's a lot to be learned from not winning, not getting a submission, not, winning a tournament, coming close. Like, there's a lot to learn from that. And not that winning doesn't feel good, because it does feel great, but there's something you can, if you don't look at it, that you can gain something from someone being better than you and besting you, then I think you're losing out on a lot of what jiu-jitsu can offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think that's the the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Part of it anyway. But so I think in closing out for this first episode, I know what my asks are of the audience, and maybe you have some too, but I'm going to say, from my perspective, you all have the gas pedal for this. You tell us what you want to see and how fast you want to see it, and that's going to drive us, because it's hard to, the momentum is hard, right?
For sure.
To overcome that. But the best fuel for us to overcome that inertia of getting started, of setting up the camera stuff, of, coming up with the episode, of tracking people down to interview, is knowing that there's people out there who want to hear from you.
For sure. Yeah.
Let us know what you want to see. Let us know what you want to see on the website, what you want to see in the podcast, and I'll give you the closing remarks with that.
No, this has been great. I agree with Anthony. We want to kind of fill a need, not just put something out there as filler. So if you guys have questions, specific questions about things, training, whatever, history, whatever it is, you can submit those, and we'll do our best to answer them. If you have people that you'd like to see interviewed, certainly send us a list. We have a list ourselves that we're going to get started on, but because, as Anthony said, I think we have a lot of great stories here among our members in the gym. But But no, I think having this as an outreach and a way to communicate with our community is key, and that's my goal, is to have this as a way to reach out outside of class, maybe stir up some more interest in it, and keep the interest and the energy high. So
Sweet.
Good. Yeah.
I think we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.